Bum, bum, bum. Tell me how my audio is, folks. Tell me how the audio is. I'm waiting for this to show up. Day 5, we have a connection. We are streaming. Okay. I see we are live. Happy Sunday. Thanks for being here. There we go. And we are good. All right, we're just gonna let this run for a moment or two. We got people coming in. Okay, let me check a few things. All right, there it is. The email went out just now. And we got viewers there. Fantastic, guys. How's it going? Tell me how the audio is, real quick. Just leave a note in the chat, just so I know you can hear me. It says the audio is okay, but I just want to make sure. I have to adjust the gain on this thing frequently. Testing 1, 2. There we go. Let's leave it back where it was. All right, and I gotta kill the headset. All right, folks. So let's talk about what we're doing today. All right, it is a Sunday, and we want to wrap up. This is the last day of enrollment. I want to make sure that you guys know what you're getting yourselves into and what we're doing, and then we want to kind of present the last little part of this, which is sculpting the head, which is really one of my favorite parts of this entire conversation. And especially this head, we've got some things that we've got some great structure, right? Not a lot of detail, but we got great structure, which you're going to see here in just a second. But make sure you tell me how the audio is. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay, audio is working. Perfect. And then we start with the live classes August 2nd. Okay, so let's go through now and make sure that you guys know. Okay, you got 11 hours. It's going to close tonight. You're getting the 4-week live sculpting. You're getting my torso, head, and then the arm and the leg are what are going to be completed by the end of September. Okay, and so then today what we want to do, let's go ahead and go up, or in the last couple of weeks, I should say, the last couple of days, not weeks, this is what we have managed to achieve. So we have blocked this model out in real simple terms, like this. We've then managed to go in and actually start to sculpt a lot of the structural elements that you need to kind of learn and master in order for you to become a more powerful sculptor and develop your own, how do I say it, able to kind of work from your own imagination is the easiest way to say that. Okay. Yeah, let's just press Alt. I just have a few things I want to kind of tweak and contours to adjust. All right, and we don't, it's not imperative. Let's raise that a little bit. I'm comparing it with the one on the other side. And that foot probably goes out a tiny bit more, and those toes definitely come out a little bit more. I'm using the mouse right now. But, you know, not too shabby. And so today, the focus that we will have is going to be the face. And if you zoom in on this face, we have this slightly, it's a little vague, what we have here. And that's actually a big advantage for us. We're going to be able to kind of go in and look at this from a structural perspective without getting caught into too much details. So I'm really excited to kind of work with you guys here and figure this out. But as we get ready to it, tell me what in the chat, what are some of the problems that you have with sculpting faces and heads? And that's what we're going to kind of hopefully make sure that we uncover and unpack. All right, so today what I'm going to do is talk to you about my method of blocking out the head. And then, well, first we're going to talk about how to get this head so that we can work with it digitally. Then we're going to talk about blocking out. Then we're going to talk about creating the structural elements of the features. And then we're going to get into the surface of all of this. So, you know, a lot of what I do is shape, structure, and surface. These are the kind of the three really big important elements for us to focus on. And a lot of this I'm not inventing. But I am pulling from different resources. So the head we're going to pull from George Bridgman, and some of the other stuff we're going to pull from Lanteri and Gottfried Bamas. But buckle up. Let's get in and start working on the head. Wakausen says the way the lips fold in, so to speak, and the chin area is a problem. I hear ya. All right, step one, I'm going to duplicate this. And we need to find a way to work with the head in you know, the simplest way possible, I feel. You know, I don't like to, even a way that would allow me to do this in symmetry, so to speak. So I'm going to kind of work on that for the moment. And I'm trying to decide which view. Let's go with this view. Okay, so I'm going to use the gyro and start to reposition the head. Let's go kind of a straightish. Do I have the epic pen? No, I don't. How is that for rotation? I think I like that for rotation. And let's get equal sides left and right. What I mean by that is I'm imagining a line and from here to here, and I want the distance for A to be the exact same distance on the other side. Okay, that's looking okay. So let's find our floor. And in the floor, I don't know if you can see it. Is it that or? Yeah, there you go. So this is a feature inside of ZBrush, this magnify. I'm going to go in and turn the Z on and the Y off. No, it's not Z, it's X. I'm going to turn X on. Okay. And what I want is to just get this at the center. So let me find where the center of that is. Turn perspective off. There it is. So we are actually kind of almost at the center. Let's just move that over. You can always go into draw. And you come down into this bottom section here. You go to modifiers and you can set the frame opacity all the way to 1. And you can see it's pulling it right there in front. So that is going to make things a little bit easier. And I can also recenter this. And yeah, that looks like we might be okay. Let's go ahead and turn symmetry on. And symmetry in this case is going to be in a different axes. I think it's going to be in Z. Yeah. So we need symmetry in Z. And I'm just going to try to place points. Alright, that's not good. I'm going to move. Oops. Corner of the eye. Brow. Corner of the eye. Okay, looks like I'm not going to get the cheek lined up. So I'm going to undo that. And let's just look at this from above. Actually, what we may want to do is look at this from a cross section. Get rid of that hair. Yeah, I'm not sold on that. Ah. I want to look here and see, you know, is the brow angled up? Is it where is it here? And so this is quite clearly telling me that it's not. So if I was to just rotate that a little bit more so it's straight, and I'm going to position that nose again a little bit better. Then when I go in and show everything else, you can see like, okay, we do have some rotation that we could benefit from. Let's undo that. There we go. And I'm just going to turn symmetry off and just rotate that ever so slightly. Okay. Did I get it? It's a little bit better. Still needs to rotate a little more. Okay. All right, you see that's a little bit better. It's still off, but we have to assume that there's going to be some variety, you know, and then just make sure that these are kind of lined up. And they're not. Really, there we go. Corner of the eye, brow, nose, corner of the mouth. Okay. I think I'm okay with this. It's a concession. It's not perfect, right? And it's not intended to be. And that's okay. And then, so now the next thing for me, I am going to isolate this head. Something like that. I have a bit of a problem. It's not gonna like that complex curvature if I close holes. Let's turn floor off for a second. So for example, what I want to do now is I want to just say delete the hidden. So I'm going to delete lower, then delete hidden, and then close holes. But you see it creates this kind of weird shape. So I'm going to do this in a series of steps. So this is a pretty good flattish plane right there. So I'm going to delete lower, delete hidden, close holes, and that's going to be a fairly decent side plane. And then I'll come through and I'll just delete this and say delete hidden and then close holes, and then I get a nice chunk out like that. Let's go ahead and let's make sure that we get rid of that. Ah! There we go. Okay, delete hidden, close holes, and now we got ourselves a fairly symmetrical piece. I think. May want to, if you don't mind, I'm going to undo some of this. I want to grab a little bit more of this. What's going on? There we go. This way I've got some bony landmarks for when I do some positioning. So then we delete lower. We're going to close the holes on that. I'm sorry. We delete lower, delete hidden, close holes. Yay. And then we can come in and close this hole. Let's make sure we get that landmark right there. Delete hidden, close hole. Perfect. I've got a nice little landmark to work with, and I got a nice little landmark to work with on this side. So that'll help me in rotating. And then once I've got it rotated, then I can get rid of this part if it starts really bothering me. Okay, so does that part make sense? I'm setting myself up to sculpt the head, but I'm trying to get something roughly symmetrical in this conversation because I'm in a digital world. And honestly, if you were in a traditional world, this is actually something you would do as well. You would cut the head off. You would then put it so that it's symmetrical and you're reducing the amount of problems that you have. Not symmetrical, I mean just facing you. And then you can work through the problems there. You work through symmetry visually there. And then you go and you put the head back on. This is, I mean, I know sculptors that do this. This is the better way to do things because it's a production way. If you're just in this kind of space, it becomes really hard and it takes time. And of course you can do it. That's what skill's all about. But why? Make your life easier. Okay, so now with that done, I got this guy here. And so I'm going to do what I did before, which is I'm going to duplicate this guy. So we're going to work from a duplicate of this. And we're going to focus pretty much exclusively on the head. And for my money, I'm going to actually just come through and do some work on the subdivisions. I'm going to freeze the subdivisions and then just come through with trim curve and cut that off like that. Simple as that. Okay. And now with that done and said, I'm going to unfreeze. See if I've got any crazy, which I do, but that crazy is fine. I don't care about that crazy. And then let's go in and put both of these together. Perfect. Size is the same, so the only thing that's changed is going to be the rotation. Okay. All right. And yeah, that's looking good. But we have a problem here. Anybody know what the problem is when you're working here? Isn't it going to be a little hard to reposition this? You know, to fit it back into the other one? Yes, no, maybe not. But there's a neat thing inside of ZBrush. I think we can... No, we're going to have problems in the rotation. Sometimes this technique, I think the rotation gets a little funky, or maybe that's in layers. Anyways, let's reduce the number of problems. Let's old school it. So ignore that. Let's just move forward with this idea. And so I'm going to just try to get these pieces locked in. I don't like that. Okay. Okay, almost there. Just to somewhere where I feel comfortable. Kind of want to push that out, but I don't trust it. There's enough spots on both sides that are revealing themselves. I think maybe I could kind of even that out a little bit more, but as I even that out, I start to run into some problems. There we go. That's looking pretty okay. Okay, solo mode. I've got the massing roughly there. I'm going to turn symmetry on here. And symmetry is going to be in Z. And I think we are ready. Okay. All right, I heard I have problems with lips. I heard I have problems with sculpting the eyes. Yeah, I was going to do stager. I don't want to do that. Figure sculpting, will figure sculpting itself be available? Figure sculpting will be available. So I'm wrapping up anatomy, and then after that I do figure sculpting, and then after that we do head sculpting, portrait sculpting, and then after that we do the basics. Actually, I'll do some basics for people and whatnot. And we should have about 5 classes at kingslien.art after everything's done and said, that I'll be really excited to kind of share with you all. So coming, just takes time, right? And all right, let's get back to it. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple of things real quick. Damn standard brush. Okay, sorry, I had to get up. Damn standard brush, and let's turn solo off here for the moment. I'm gonna draw in just measurements. We'll talk about measurements here in a second anyways. Um, That's not accurate. Let's use the move brush and push that out. Yeah, that's accurate. Okay, I'm gonna put a nice little line right there, and I'll explain that in just a second. And then the hairline. Okay, so I'm doing measurements here, but the measurements that I'm, oh, looks like we didn't get the other side. Sorry, 1 second. Let's do this in the clay brush. This is a very important landmark. There we go. It's having problems because you see the curvature's not right. So this is something that we're going to have to do. I'm going to have to adjust the curvature on this side, and I'll show you how I do that. Because we did this not symmetrical, right? But don't worry, I'm a qualified professional. I'm licensed by the ASA to perform delicate operations. And let's just get right there, just the ear. But the ear is different, just so you can kind of see this. You see where the ear is here, and then the ear drops. So the sides are not symmetrical, and actually kind of by a long stretch. So we're going to have to go back and forth between all of these to kind of make sense, out of everything that we're doing. This is actually one of the tricks. On this side, this is the high side, and then this side is the low side. Okay? You see, that right side is the low side. So the trick is that you actually just, even a little bit, you just do a little bit of sculpting on the high side. Not a lot, but you see what happens on the other side. It actually brings it all forward. It's pretty cool. Really basic technique, really simple. I'm just going to go through and I'm just touching. I'm not even really making moves, but you can see it's actually pretty impactful on the low side. So why don't we do that now? As long as your brush is large enough, this technique will work. Okay, so this is a problem. No, it's not. I'm going to press Alt on the high side, or what is the high side, and you see how that's carving in the other side. So I'm really just making everything symmetrical to this side on the left. And then don't forget your sagittal crest. Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. Mohawk, whatever you want to call it. In humans, you don't see it a ton. In other animals, you do. All right. Let's do the bottom of this. Oh, sorry. Do the other side. Sweet Jesus. Na 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 na. There you go. All right. Pretty basic. But pretty cool. Let's talk about measurements real quick. So if you're talking about a head, you can divide it in half. And what's at the halfway mark? But the eyeballs. Okay. And then you can also let's just find an arbitrary line right here. This is going to be kind of important. But before we do that arbitrary line, you can also then just try to find where the brow is, right? And you leave this a little arbitrary. And then go down, and roughly half of that is going to be the bottom of the nose. And then from there, if you drag that line straight across, you actually get the bottom of the cheek. The cheekbone largely lines up with the bottom of the nose itself. And then if you come down and you say divide this into thirds, you sometimes get the lip line. This is something that changes quite a bit. So, it's going to be somewhere within this vicinity. And so now the nose is roughly one eyeball. And you can kind of say, let me find the midline. Where's the midline's right there. Okay. So they say generally from this high point to this high point, it's 5 eyes, right? And so that's a bit of a problem a lot of times. And it's, if you can do it, you can do it. You can sometimes say the nose is about 1 eye, so you can pull that up a little bit. And then you can say, all right, well, so that's going to put it out there, and that's going to put it out there, and then that would put 1 more eye and 1 more eye, right? And it works, right? I'm pulling the nose up, and then I've got my eye right there. Does it work? Let's see. Let's leave these on the screen and then just go into the actual piece here. It's not bad. Oops. Oh. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Sorry. I had to figure out what it was. I've lined it up pretty okay, right? You see? It's using that simple measurement. It's off a little bit on this side. That's okay. But, hey, you learn these measurements. It does make life a little bit easier at the end. There's a couple of other measurements that I think are important for you to contemplate. Let me get my pin out of the way. When you look at the brow down to the nose, I also want you to not divide this in half, because if I divide this in half, it's right about here. I want you to divide this, I don't know, kind of more in thirds, let's say. And notice there is a line right there, maybe at 1/3 the way up, that kind of helps articulate the bottom of the orbit of the eye. Okay, it ends up coming up about like this, and so this is where you get those skeletal sad eyes, is that the eye is angled like that. But we want to have, let's say, 1/3 of the way. That's going to be cheekbone. 1/3 cheekbone. And then the upper 2/3, that's all eyeball stuff. Another measurement to get clear on, and we talk about this in the class, the corner of the mouth, you can take that line straight up, okay? And that line should do a couple of things. In an ideal kind of setup, let's go caruncula here. That line, if I draw it a little bit bigger, and we got our pupil. That line should fit somewhere in between the, let's say, the center of the pupil and the corner of the iris, where the iris is. And so it'll fit somewhere in between this spacing. Pull that up, and you can see in this case he's got smaller lips, so those lips are actually on this side of the iris. They could get smaller, but I think this is actually a pretty good number. And then if he was to have even wider lips, notice that they don't actually go that much further. So you're thinking Sheryl Crow. Steven Tyler is going to break this entire conversation. So there's definitely, these are guidelines that help us, but they shouldn't control us. What happened here? Oh, okay, there we go. Just undo that and delete your history, Ryan. Voila. Okay, any questions? Let's see. Figure sculpting. Oh, well, Kosin, let's not talk about figure sculpting right now if you don't mind. I still have arm, legs, And I still have to actually sculpt this during the 4 weeks. So I got my hands full. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, so let's go and turn both of those on. I've got my measurements sketched out, and I'm going to go in and use my split mode to kind of see them. All right, and so now the way that I work with heads is pretty universally, it all happens this way. So I like to start out with what's called, what we'll call the 5 volumes of the head. And you can't really Google this, but you can see it in George Bridgman's work. He's got one section where he talks about the volume of the head. There's the block of the cranial space. There is the rectangle of the cheek space. There is the upright cylinder of the center of the face, the maxilla, and then there is the triangular shape of the jaw, right? So that's 4, I think. And then you put the sphere of the cranium into that conversation. And if you do this right, it will level up the sculpting of heads. It creates a foundation that's just undeniable. It's literally all the essential elements. And Bridgman was drawing this, but I mean, he might as well have been sculpting it. And in a sense, when we're in ZBrush, we are drawing a little bit. We're in this beautiful world that's between the two of them. So we pull from them all the time. I pull from draftsmen all the time with their form concepts and their processes, their ways of thinking about things. Okay, so I need to get rid of this hand now. It is troubling me. Freeze. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, unfreeze. Yep, I can live with that. Okay, I believe you. Here we start. I'm going to start in the corner. I'm going to dig in to establish, and let's move this line over to the side, because I'm going to lose it if I don't. So I'm basically like tracking it in an area that I'm unlikely to sculpt. So I'm going to carve in the inner corner of the eye and move that down in a diagonal and out. I want you to imagine that there's a little dart going in there, and it's just I start here and then start clocking it outwards. And this does several really important things. It distinguishes the brow from the upright cylinder of the center of the face, and it also lays the groundwork for what's going to later be the rectangular cheekbones. Okay, and so now I'm going to take that and I'm going to move it around and up. And so my strokes here are always the same, literally always the same. Down, and then around, and then up. Later on you'll see I'll take another stroke and I'll probably pull it this way. But these strokes are the foundational strokes. If you don't make these strokes, you're going to have to make those strokes later. So you might as well make them now. And then this is going to set up and create some of the essential forms that I need. Okay, I'm going to cut across here and just create some of the volume. I'm kind of cheating a little bit, so you can see in the course, you'll see this lesson, you'll see it a little bit more structured than I'm doing right now, because it's more of a beginner one. But in this, I'm kind of pushing through to do some cool stuff. So I'm going to try to find the jaw. And the jaw, yeah, there you go. Find the jaw. And I'm again doing my usual, where I'm trying to find the main contour, and then I build bridges. You might have to use the standard brush to just kind of cut in. There you go. Definitely screwed up. The symmetry really screwed up the neck in that area. So it's not going to be a bad idea, I think, if we store a morph target at a certain point. So let's get a little bit of something kind of sculpted in here, and then I'm going to actually store a morph target. So I'm going to kind of start to indicate the neck a little bit. Okay, this is just roughed in right now, guys. But I'm going to go in and store a morph target right now, so that if I have to go back and restore something from this, it's going to, I'll be able to. All right. I'm going to do a main contour for the ear, and I'm going to do the ear on this side. Oh, I see. Do you see what happened? They screwed up. That's unlikely to be real. It just all got pushed up in their sculpting. So I'm going to actually use this one. And let's mask this out. Get that set off the head. And okay, let's get the top of that ear. That's the bottom. I think this will be enough. I'll just actually angle all. I'll just use that. There we go. It's going to be the top. Yeah, that's pretty good. Getting a weird behavior. Yeah. I'm not doing the hair just yet. So you do have to imagine. Gotta be careful. See how I did that? I started messing with that. Guess I have to remind myself. Okay. That's a basic head structure. Let's turn solo on. It's also a villager. So Minecraft was onto something. This is the foundation of the face. And if you are able to sculpt this foundation of the face, you can put all of the features on top of it. This is the missing piece. This is the piece everybody, literally everybody is missing. If you are not able to sculpt random faces from just start to play with things, it is first, number one, because you haven't internalized the villager face. Once you've done that, you so much that you can achieve. But the villager face is deceptively simple. It has the 5 volumes of the head. And those 5 volumes are what give us power, really. They allow us to imagine and play, you know. And so, like, if you look at any of my, if you go to my Instagram, it's a lot of anatomy, which I think, honestly, I need to stop. Otherwise, I'm going to burn out. But let's take a look. If you go back down further, you can see, like, here's me just playing with faces, and I'm putting the volumes in here that you may not know. It happens in the first, like, 5 minutes. And then I start moving them around. Man, so much anatomy, right? Right there, I have kind of indicated the volumes. I've pushed out from the corner of the eye. You can't really tell unless you know, like, I have the 5 volumes here at this stage. Now I'm going in and I'm playing with placement, and I bring the rake brush in and I start playing with surface and variations in the structure, let's say. Definitely. But I have to resculpt my daughter. It's close, but it's not it. I'm chasing some features on her that's driving me freaking nuts. These are all imaginary. Except for that. That's imaginary, just out of my head. And so it all comes from that base. Okay. So you want to be able to sculpt this simple volume structure. And if you are, you have power. If you are not, you do not have that power. So we have done the intellectual. Now we actually have to apply this, and we have to check measurements and things of that nature. So we're going to do that here in a second. Okay. I'm going to look at this from a side view. And let's select this. I just need to get rid of... bum, 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 bum. Okay, where's that nose? Where's that brow? So you see my brow is largely there, but let's get the back of the head. Back of the head is largely there. Yeah, let's look from this view. Chin. That jaw needs to go back. You guys all understand how I'm using the measurements, right? If you don't, please speak up. I'm using the side to help me determine. And I'm just locking off points. So chin. Chin could go forward. Brow. Brow is quite forward, but now I need the plane, which is normal. We always do the intellectualization first, and then it's so easy to just make that change, right? I'm going to also check, very important point, right there, just so I can be clear on how far back that is from the rest. So this point's clear, this point's clear, and this point's clear. I want to know between that space how far back that eye goes, and from this I can tell it goes back a little bit more. That'll work. Okay. Cool. All right, I'm going to, where was that? Oh, I ended up sculpting over that line. Bottom of the nose is right there. Let's just go ahead and add in the nose. When I add in the nose, I'm going to try to get just this main line. And, you know, sometimes people would, and sometimes let's not say people, sometimes I'll just do this. Because you can also use the move brush when you do this as well, which is not a bad deal, I think. Okay, I'm going to invert that and just smooth this out. That way just the topology gets a little bit better, because I really don't want to have to redo the topology right now. So let's just craft this if you don't mind. Let's move that point up. And here, let's be clear about what we're doing. We're creating something like this. Some problems, but we're getting there. Okay, there we go. I feel pretty okay with that. It's going to get messed up, but I feel okay with that. And that represents, you know, like a cross section. It's also just a silhouette of this. And again, if we go back to my Instagram real quick, let's go. There is a lesson in the course. It's also, I've got a sped up version of it right here, where this is what we do. We start with that silhouette, with that, in this case it's much simpler, and then we start to build the bridges and the widths into it. It's a fantastic exercise to really lock in your knowledge, and we're doing kind of an abbreviated version of that here. But what we have to do is, okay, we've got this sort of there, but anytime I have established one form, I now need to kind of bridge that to another. But what do you need in order for a bridge to work? You need a beginning and you need an end, right? So I have my beginning, I have point A, I need point B, and that's going to be this really wonderful line that moves through the face. It'll move from the corner here down along this side, and then it moves along the canine tooth. And that's dead on. That's the canine tooth right there. It follows that line. It really starts to separate the front of the face from the side of the face. It separates the cheek, the front of the face here, from the side of the nose there. And of course, it's a little loose. There's there's some variety in it and whatnot. But draw that line and get that line accurate, And so that's my next move. My next move is I'm looking at here and I'm going to sculpt in. Come on. And sculpt that line. So straight up, down, down, down. Okay. I look at it from this view and just get that plane there. I'm not sculpting nostrils. Don't sculpt nostrils, for God's sakes. Just sculpt that line. You see how that line, in and of itself, if we go back in time, see how that line already starts to create the sense of the form of the face. Like it already makes that nose sit so well. And, just so that we're kind of crystal clear on this, I'm going to go in to the original. Okay. Voila. And we want to see how our line compares with that one. We're not far off. We're not as far off as it makes it look, actually. We just need to come in and pull some form forward, which is actually a common thing for me. I go and create too much depth. But this is similar to the cross-section thing we did earlier, if you remember. Just showcasing the form. Voila. Okay, and then I'll just go back on that. There. All I did was just bring it forward. Okay, and fill it in a little bit. Again, this is because I tend to make it deep. This is a personal thing. It's my personal problem. And we all have them. We all got our own picadillos. Okay, let's go, and I'm gonna, it looks like I'm sculpting the nostril, but I'm not, guys. I'm gonna sculpt the Disney princess line. What's the Disney princess line, Ryan? That's the Disney princess line. Use the knife brush to cut if you need to. Again, it looks like I'm sculpting the nostril, but I'm not. I'm sculpting a plane. I'm going to put a line in here to start to indicate eyeballs. I drew that line in, and now I'm going to actually, instead of sculpting it back, I'm going to actually use the move brush and pull it back. I'm envisioning this line like right, it's on the inside, not the eyelid itself, it's the area above that. Needs to go in. That's actually okay, and then that needs to go down. And then you'll notice all the form that has to be built. And this area, called the infraorbital triangle, has to be fleshed out. You see in mine, and this is again a common personal problem, it becomes quite concave. But if you were to draw a line, it's less. This all gets filled in this process. Do I have perspective off? I do. Okay. I'm going to cave that in a little bit. We haven't done the hair yet, but that was a little troublesome. All right, now I'm going to build, I'm going to go through now and start to build in little bits of masses. I probably should save this too. And we're at about an hour. So how are we doing? How you doing? How's this working out for you? We got to stretch. Any questions? Anything on your mind? Most important thing for me is that you're seeing process in action, right? And that's true of any decent teacher, is that you see process, right? If you were in the 1900s, early 1900s, you went to a Robert Beverly Hale class, you would see his process of building. George Bridgman, depends. I think he got, I think he was drunk a lot more at the end. But you got to see his process for building and thinking. That's what he was communicating. It's process, you know? Process is power. It's still saving, so give it another minute for me. And I think we go, I'm going to make a prophecy. I don't have much more than 10 minutes of sculpting on this. I'm slowing this down so I can explain it. And you can see the process in action. But it's once you learn the process. So if you were to go through these videos and you go step by step by step by step, and you look and you say, all right, at 1 minute and 1 hour and 6 minutes, this is what Ryan's sculpt looks like, and you make your sculpt look exactly like that. There's probably no greater way of learning, and it might seem slow, but there's probably no faster way to internalize this than to do that. Make sure it looks like what I'm sculpting, so that you're not reversing. You're learning process, but it's hard to explain. But in my view, replicating every single one of the steps has always been the thing that helped me grow. And we still have to send this over to, the original sculpt. So we do have a little bit of time. So now I'm going in and I'm starting to define features and planes. As you know, I define them. And the ball. Let's get this zygomatic. Get the frontal sphenoidal process of the zygomatic. Get the frontal bone. Get the fat. Let's go into the lips. I'm gonna kind of push those in, and I'm gonna try to define the corner of the lip a little bit and underneath the lip, as well as kind of pull down a little bit. There you go. Several things I did, and I'll cover all of these inside the class. They're all covered already, actually. I like to think of a little dart for the chin. Once you see it, you should basically you'll see it forever. Can you see the architecture or not yet? Do you see it evolving? Everything I'm doing, has a reason. I'm not just willy-nilly. This is a common thing in sculpting, in marble carving. They're keeping things, they're slightly inflated. I don't know if you guys feel that, but they keep it slightly inflated so that, they've always got a little bit of clay left in reserve. And by clay, I mean marble. Get some of the more specific characteristics, a little bit of an arch, get that to drop down a little bit, pull that form up, anything else on my mind? Okay, that became too large. Line of the lips, pretty okay. Okay, and then in this case, this all gets swollen a bit. But let's go in and let's use the morph brush because we stored that morph target, right? So that helps me out in a pinch when some of that geometry just goes to hell in a handbasket. Because now, just on this one side, because he's turning into his neck like that a lot, there's some changes to the form. Let's pull that. Okay, make that a little bit bigger. Doing small adjustments right now. Still foundation though. This is still all basic stuff. Okay, let's do some hair. Symmetry off. Pull that hair forward. Pay attention to structure. Maybe switch out alphas. Definitely for this. You see how he's kind of carved like just big, huge, chunky planes. Ah. Okay, let's go in now and start to define a few more characteristics. Get a little bit more of his quality. And I'm doing this with what would be essentially a big brush. And I'm going to start here with just the upper eyelid standard brush. Generally a good, actually it's generally the best one to start with is that upper eyelid. And of course there's lots of people that do eyes, and there's lots of different ways. So I highly recommend that you kind of experiment and that you become proficient in multiple ways. But like I did with the hand the other day, a lot of what I do is based on kind of volume, not necessarily anatomy. A lot of time when you're thinking about anatomy, you get certain things wrong. You lose power somewhere. Kind of like where this guy's going. It's a little different. Okay. I'm going to put a line in that I know is in there, but they've barely indicated it. It's a line that lives above and pulls the lips out. Like they barely indicated, but I need those lips to just pull forward a little bit. That bottom lip has a lot more volume than I'm putting in, or something's up. I don't know what it is. And I'm going to remove too much of a shadow. Okay. All right. I have the essentials for me. So there's a couple of things that we can do now. I would actually probably go in and sculpt this further. But we're at, again, an hour and a half. Yeah, I said about 15 minutes. And so that was about 15 minutes more of sculpting to start to get it somewhere that I like. I'm going to sculpt, because once I'm on it, it's just like I just see thing after thing after thing. And sculpting is all about problems. Yeah, we'll leave that there. So now the last thing I'd like you guys to see is transferring this over into our actual sculpt. And so, of course, I'll have this here, so I can always, go back and forth and whatnot and resculpt. And you should feel comfortable doing that. You should feel like, process is process. Like, just don't try to save yourself a ton of time. Just get in and start sculpting these things. ZBrush has a lot of flexibility that you can use. So now we've done this part. Let's move this over into the other one. And at that point, we call it a day. Just remember, enrollment ends tonight. Tonight I will close down enrollment, and then we start basically next weekend with the live stuff, but you get immediate access to anatomy of the torso, anatomy of the head, and all that good stuff. All right, so let's take a look at the screen. And let's save this because we're going to be doing projection. And I should have saved this before. It's going to take a minute to save. But it's, how do we say it? It's, I just lost my brain. And I'm looking. Yeah, the small halftones, there's little things I need to do. The nose isn't quite right, but I kind of like what I have for now. We can compare them here in a second. Thomas, I'm going through comments right now. Thomas says split screen function is so amazing. Yeah, totally. Diaz, I have a hard time with the eyes. The eyelids always look terrible. Diaz, I would go on record and say that the most likely reason they look terrible is because you are thinking eyelid, and you don't want to think eyelid. Because if you think eyelid, you're going to be working from a mental representation, which would be, say, the Egyptians with those eyes that they make, okay? Pay attention to what you are thinking as you are sculpting and what words are kind of coming to your mind. So, for example, if you're thinking eyelid, you're just going to get a line. It's going to look like crap. You need to think the palpebral raphe. You need to think, the caruncula. You need to think about just these big curves. You need to think up plane, down plane. You need to think, how does it fit into the fat above, right? And you have to start thinking planar and structure and mass orientation. You have to start thinking like a sculptor at the end of the day, and not like a normal human who says that's an eyelid, and that's not how it works. Even if you're going to draw these things, you have to learn a new vocabulary for working with them. Let's compare real quick, see how much difference we have. A little bit. Let's go and check that again. I like where I was. Let's go. That, I think, is a good choice. A little bit more volume. All right, let's get in now and transfer this over. It has been saved. I don't need this. What I need now is this guy, and I'm gonna have to do the real pain in the butt work of rotating this to make this fit, my guy. Thank God we didn't change the size, right? So, as Archimedes said, find a lever and you can move the world, which they also said in the new Fantastic Four. I'm going to find that lever. Definitely think, yeah, see that back? I think we're within range. What do you think? Wait, what happened? What happened to his neck? Oh, did I just chew that? That does not make sense. I didn't pay attention. Okay, I'll have to correct that. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. I'm okay enough to move forward. So what am I going to do? Let's focus on this guy here real quick. And the big thing we need to do is we need to make sure that it's inflated enough around this that it's actually encompassing this, this head. Okay, so we can make changes later. And then also, this is not a bad idea to establish a morph target as I go through and do this, because I don't want to accidentally screw up some of the sculpting that we've done. In some ways, it is easier for ZBrush to shrink wrap down than out. Okay, but, you know, we will go in and okay, I like that. Okay, so now let's just go into a mask. Let's mask this, invert that, and I'm going to show everything, turn transparency off, and let's project. And notice how I'm projecting the low resolution first. I'm going to smooth out any weird areas, which you might notice there are more than a few, and then try to project again. And project again. Okay, increase the subdivisions, project. What am I doing? I'm pressing the wrong thing. Sorry. Increase, project, increase, project. Okay, check it. Definitely getting problems in areas like this. That's going to be a normal, the ears, that's going to be a normal problem. Don't be afraid to smooth out and re-sculpt. Okay, we are at the top. So that's weird. Oh. That's fine. There we go. Now we can go back into split screen go back to our original and start to make any adjustments to the sculpt, you know, that we want. You know, I have to fix this. There's some issues in there to get sorted. Not today. Today we've done our job, I feel. Pull those a little closer together. Symmetry is going to kind of go out the door now, but that's okay. This is the time for it to go out the door. All right. Here we go, team. Over the span of how many days, we started to establish and we have some reasonable structure to work with. At this point now, you can see in the back what's left. This is kind of the next stage, is to go in with the rake brush and start to integrate the area that we did around the legs, start to integrate the area around the hands. And so when you use the rake brush, you're trying to find smaller planes, right? So we're using the rake brush to try to separate, and like we do here, we create a form there, we kind of separate and say, oh, there's something here, and I don't know exactly what they are. Sometimes I don't really even care. It's just you're trying to get it, and you can see how I don't have the plane accurate there. So now we would go in with the rake brush and say, all right, let's build a little bit of geometry right there, and then get that plane working a little bit better. There you go. And this one needs to kind of carve in and integrate a little bit more. This one needs to do a little something something, and I got to build some volume on this side, right? And it's the same with the face now. So now we would go in and we would just kind of crawl over the surface. Make sure that we have everything that we want, and you know that we've put the forms in that we feel are relevant for our sculpt, and that we have learned what we need to learn. Let's go ahead and get rid of split. And then we get his beautiful face. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And that's our sculpt. 5 days. Thank you guys for being here, for being present with me on this journey. Make sure you head over to kingslien.art and enroll today, because it ends today. And I'd love to see you in it, and I'd love to work with you on sculpting and share all that stuff that I've been learning over the years, and all of that. All right, I am tired. Oof, a lot of sculpting. It's been a lot to show up here every day for 5 days. It's really lovely to be here to talk to people and see people show up time after time after time, and it's really wonderful to do this. So thank you guys for showing up and for putting the time in to learn and to grow. And I will see you guys in the course. If you have questions, shout them out. I'm going to switch over into the screen so you can see that we have a limited time window, 10 more hours, And just kingslien.art. Sign up. I'll see you there. Thanks, Lonely Goblin. Appreciate it. Thanks, Diaz. Joel. Thanks, Gnosis. Good to see you here. Thomas Bartold, thank you so much. Wakosan, thank you so much. Padilla stuff. Interesting. Interesting. It says hand purple blue peace hand. Oh, it's an emoji that came in full text. Okay. All right. Take care of yourselves, guys. Have an amazing Sunday. I will see you in the class, and let's get sculpting.